Ndị be anyị ekene m unu. Asị m ka echiri ya zelu. Asụka nke ụbọchị nke taa mara na anyị mma. Dịka anyị si na-esonyere anyị dị ife anyị na-eme n'elu akwụkwọ. Anyị si na Chukwu oke abịa mapụrụ m ihe niile. Ka a na-ele onye ọbụla niile. Ndị na-ekwu okwu gbasịta maka Maazị Nnamdi Kanu ka o esi wepụta dịka odogwu PM n'exile Maazị Simon Ekpa. A sị na ya dịka echi na-echi ada agwụ ọgwụ. Anyị kwuru na-akọ ya dịrị ise. Alright, we na n'elu akwụkwọ wee ife anyị wetelu ozi anyị wetelu n'elu akwụkwọ. Anyị kwere unu nkwa na anyị ga na-enye unu update gbasịta maka ife ọbụla na-eme na ala Igbo and the whole Biafra land. Unu n'anya o nwere ihe nwanne anyị nwoke bụ sinetọ Abaribe enyi nne ya kwuru n'elu akwụkwọ a gbasịta maka our PM Maazị Simon Ekpa na Finland about sit at home. Ma chọkwa unu gee ya bụ ife because before ngosi unu ya bụ video ya bụ audio kunu gee biko upon na since Maazị Nnamdi Kanu na DSS custody ọ na o nwebeghị strategy ndị a wepụtara anyị ejibu elelizi ya. That is the point. Assuming now na akwụsị sit at home every Monday sit at home. O nwere ife ọbụla o chenjiri for Maazị Nnamdi Kanu release. Biko achọrọ m ka unu saa m ya bụ ife before unu ege ya bụ ozi nji maka ya wee bịa n'iru akwụkwọ. Alright, over to you, sir.
That but they still felt that I served their purpose, you know. And
it was a close call, though.
I'm sorry?
It was a close call.
Of course, it had to be a close call
because the runner-up really came close.
Yeah, it came close. That's quite. That's how it is, you know. But you know, in legislative elections, even if it's one vote, that's it. It is only in the executive side that you have the question of you must reach a certain threshold before you can be declared a winner.
Well, in the Southeast, a lot of issues. Some people will say, maybe not just the Southeast, all over the country. Fresh elections, but it's still the same old issues. People are just going to give fresh tries to the same old issues. For the Southeast, it's been this issue of sit at home, getting the Southeast economy to be up and running again. We see a number of governors trying to exert that influence to, you know, put their stamp of authority as to being in charge. The state trying to take charge, as it were. Sometime in July last year, I beg your pardon, this year, of course, just last month, we saw leaders of the Southeast, regardless of political affiliation, coming together to have a meeting. Would you say that you're already beginning to see results as to what was decided in that meeting, or do you think it would take much more than one engagement to see it?
Yes, I was in that meeting. I was part of the meeting, and there are more meetings we are going to hold. And of course, every one of us came together. In fact, when we discussed it on the floor of the Senate, my contention was that nobody wants the matter of sit at home anymore because that idea had been hijacked by hoodlums and criminals, and now all they do is to use that cover to now perpetrate all manners of violence and mayhem everywhere. Now, I also, on the floor of the Senate, gave a historical background. And I think what is left is that if you give somebody a fulcrum on which he holds to do something, if you remove that fulcrum, then he has nothing to use. Now we have somebody in Finland who has declared himself a prime minister. and goes ahead to issue all manners of orders. And the fulcrum he hangs it on is, that Nnamdi Kanu is under detention, he has to be released before they stop all this and all that. Now, when Nnamdi Kanu himself, when we visited him, because I went in company of Ekpa, the former Deputy Senate President, Bishop Ona, the Catholic Bishop of Soka, Bishop Onoha, who is an Anglican bishop in Abia, and Oke Muche, who is the Secretary General of Ohanese. And we all sat with him. And he said, no, I'm not part of this, and I have denounced it, and I have told my people to make announcements and told them we no longer can do that. Now we run into two problems. Because when we even came out and we engaged people, say, oh no, why won't you let him come and talk? If he says it himself, and we told them, okay, here is a man under a jurisdiction of a court. It will be very difficult if the court does not give an order for him to give a verbal, a TV interview and all that, and it's never done. Because the corollary of it may be that every other person who is detained might now say, you must give me the same thing. So courts don't work that way. And because that was not able, so he has to pass the message through us, through his lawyers, and I think last week there was
a handwritten message.
There was a message from him, handwritten. Well, of course, the man who is profiting from it, far away in Finland, denounced it and now even put more conditions. Oh, they will never stop it until we see him, and I have to see him in Finland. So you can now see that because they profit from this, they're not going to stop it, because it had become a money-making venture. And we have seen adverts where they do on the internet asking people to contribute money for the liberation of Biafra and all that. Now, what do? We have to engage with the government, because there is also some subsisting issues on the ground. The court had granted him his freedom, and the government
rearrested him.
They didn't rearrest him. The government applied to the same appeal court for a stay of execution, and now appealed to the Supreme Court. So now the Supreme Court hasn't taken any decision. And so at any time that we are doing the talk, part of that resolution that we said was also, and that was part of what we also decided at the last meeting we had of all the leaders, that as much as we are going to engage everyone, we also engage the government at the same time and see how we can do a solution that will be favorable to all. Because if we do not remove that lever which they use, which is his continued detention, they will always use it as a reason for perpetrating crime. And what all the governors of the Southeast have done is that everybody coming together and they're trying to use the different ways to say we cannot hurt ourselves in trying to say we're looking for our liberation. And that is where we are at the moment.
The situation was a bit worrisome. The Enugu state government is doing a different type of enforcement. It's almost like ensuring that people come out to work in defiance of the sit-at-home order. But that did not go down well with traders whose shops were closed. As a result of that, they came out to protest the following day, and that led to a confrontation which saw like about 2 people also lose their lives. I don't know if there's been any conversation around what happened in Enugu and whether, other governors of the Southeast will be learning any lessons from there.
Well, I think the governors met among themselves and they are meeting, and we're even going to have a meeting next week in Enugu, all of us. And I think these matters are going to come to have a way of making sure that there will be no that type of fatalities don't happen anymore. I think sometimes we have an Igbo adage. Sometimes if you miss the road, it also helps you to know the proper way to follow. So I do not know the circumstances of what happened in Enugu. I just read it just like you read. And I think that when we get there for our meetings next week, I think the full facts will be there because we're getting disparate information on that.
Let me quickly just take you up on this one. Ohaneze also saying that 250 people have lost their lives in the enforcement of sit-at-home orders. I don't know what your take is on it. The number of lives that have been lost so far. This is without even also taking cognizance of the damage to the economy. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, my thought really is even one person being lost is too much. The Southeast suffered the Civil War, suffered devastation, suffered plenty of them. So we ought not to. So if somebody says, I want to liberate the Southeast and create a Biafra, and then you kill the same Southeasterners, so what you're doing is not liberating or doing anything. You're simply indulging in murder and mayhem. And so that's why we condemned it. And we said, no, what you're doing is wrong. And of course, different information has come to us. Some people have claimed that there were government agents that were part of it. Some people have claimed that some other agent provocators have also. And of course, we were also here when we saw Sari Dokubo make a very provocative statement that he was the person with his people going to do things in that place. And what we want really is to bring an end to this. Because if you bring an end to it, then we can now, let's say, purely follow what the late Odumegwu Ojukwu said, that if you want a Biafra, that the things that we are past the stage of war, that what we want is a Biafra of the mind.
Yeah, over the last 2 years, that's what Ohaneze says.
Yes.
But let's go to the matter of the Senate confirmation hearings now. You have sat through them this week, and it's drawn quite a bit of reaction. Some lawyers, first of all, say that, look, the president could be in contravention of the Constitution, which demands that, at least a minister be appointed from every state. They think that the initial list sent on the deadline prescribed by the Constitution, the initial list of 28 names was not in compliance with the Constitution. As a result of that, they think that, due process has not been followed. The Senate hasn't taken an issue with that, but do you have a problem with that?
I don't, because I'm the lawyer, so that's within their own jurisdiction. But what we felt, to be very fair, on the floor, it was that what was required by the Constitution is that a list should be sent. It never made a specific provision to say all states or whatever, and now that every state is covered and even more, I don't think that that is an issue that the Senate is going to concern itself with.
Well, the Senate, I hope, will concern itself with this other issue, which is this matter of bow and go scenarios. I know that, for years they've been trying to justify it, saying that, if they're former lawmakers, we'll give them that courtesy. But we also saw former governors being extended that, shall I call it, privilege now. People are saying, look, we are in a dire situation with regards to our economy and the general state of affairs, that at this point we should be seeing a scenario whereby ministers are truly grilled, or ministerial nominees are seen to be capable of whatever job it is that will be given to them. As somebody who is in the opposition, do you think that the Senate has done sufficient work interviewing, because that's what the ministerial screenings are about, those who have been appointed as nominees?
Let me make a clarification. I think sometimes the public also does not understand how it's done. Usually, the first thing that we do is screening. You talk about yourself, we ask you questions, and so forth. Then the second part is the confirmation.
Where is the screening?
The screening is the one that we're doing now.
Okay.
The one that people come, they talk about themselves. We decide whether to let you go or ask you specific things. But let me say this. The biggest problem that we have with the screening of anyone is the fact that it does not come with the portfolio you're going to have. Anywhere else in the world where people are screened in this manner, they come with their portfolio so that you know how you specifically engage that person. But our constitution does not require that, and most of the presidents, none has found it expedient, let's just say, to break with the norm and come with, this man is going to be my Minister of Finance. So we now know, and when we are engaging him, we now know whether he actually understands where he's going. But once it's an omnibus thing, so people are now, you can ask some people, you can decide they won't go. But the privilege of coming to the Senate and not being grilled, except if you request it, is only for former members of the National Assembly. That is, former senators, former members of the House of Representatives, present and serving ones. For governors, it's not extended to them. If, in the opinion of the people on the floor, they decide that they are going to not engage the person, maybe they feel that his performance as governor was very sterling and that you don't need to engage him on that, then that is what happens on the floor. Sometimes people don't do what the public expects.
Yeah, but there were no objections raised. It was said that members...
Let me put it this way. Which is another thing the public doesn't know. You may raise your hand to ask a question, and in the balance of you don't catch the eye of the presiding officer and he doesn't call you. That does not mean that you may not have wanted, but if he doesn't call you, then that is it. So what has actually happened is a misunderstanding, because at the end of the day, we're still going to come to confirmation. What now happens in confirmation is that each candidate will be brought out and we will now say, would you confirm this person? Those who have objections will also have the opportunity then to also raise objections.
Yeah, but given how the screenings have gone so far, do you think that there will be any objections that would stand, in this particular assembly?
ndị be anyị daalụ nne ka unu sikwa wee na-esere anyị nwayọọ nwayọọ n'ife anyị na-eme. Anyị si unu daalụ nne n'ụmụ Chineke, ụmụ ife. Nkwa anyị na-ekwu unu bụ na ọ ya adịsị mma Maazị Nnamdi Kanu ya pụta na mkpọrọ and Biafra ya ana. Onye anyị kwuru na ka ọ ya dịrịrị ise ise ise. All right, once again, daalụ nne n'ụmụ Chineke, daalụkwa nne ọzọ. Gịnị ka ị nwere ike ikwu gbasịta maka ya bụ ife emelụ, ya bụ ife Sinetọ Abaribe kwughasị n'ebe akwụkwọ a, ka ife nwere ike ikwu gbasịta maka ya? Kebakwara ka ị drọpụ ya on the commission bureau. Once again, don't forget that this is Eastern News 24. Ebe anyị si wee na-ewetara unu ozi a dị oke mkpa. Daalụ nne na ụmụ Chineke, ka emesịa.